music has traditionally been based upon the dualistic conflict between tension and release, but much of the world's music is not constructed on this premise. Particularly in India and Southeast Asia, music is based upon regularly recurring rhythmic patterns that transform slowly and subtly. This model provided fertile ground for a select group of 20th century composers. Minimalism was a term coined by artists in the 1960s. It was a style that stressed mechanical form, removed from expressive meaning. It was aligned with Bauhaus architecture that emphasized functionality of design for the needs of the machine age. The art aesthetic was best expressed as hard edge, a style that excluded the expression of the artist's individual personality. Music performed in the lofts and art galleries where minimalist art was shown took on a similar persona. As Steve Reich once said, minimalism expresses a state of impersonality. Lamont Young, who had been studying Japanese music, was the first of this generation to experiment with these new ideas about musical space. After graduating from UCLA, he began writing experience music. His piece, Visions, set up a period of 13 minutes during which 11 sounds had to be made. The spacing and timing were to be worked out by consulting a random number table or telephone book. Young's later music developed into long sustained notes plus their overtones. This led to another characteristic element of minimalism. The melodic and harmonic materials were almost exclusively drawn from triads, the first 5 partials of the overtone series. Terry Riley, another California native, worked with Lamont Young at UC Berkeley, where he graduated in 1961. During the early 60s, he worked in the ORTF recording studios, developing his trademark sound, repeated melodic phrases over a constant pulse, using tape loops and layers of sound in variable phase relationships. In 1964, Terry Riley wrote In C. Although it doesn't use tape, it incorporates the same basic principles as his earlier pieces. In C begins with a pulse note on high C that continues throughout the whole piece. The stasis created by the pulse can be directly traced back to similar effects in Eastern music. Each player is given motives they are to play in order, proceeding from cell to cell at their own pace, at whatever point seems appropriate. Every cell is built upon the overtone series of C. This composition develops from the idea that each part is like a pre-recorded tape played in phase relationship to the preceding part. Steve Reich came to California in the 1960s to study composition with Darius Milhaud at Mills College. Like Terry Riley, he began working with tape and discovered the process of phase shifting. His piece, It's Gonna Rain, takes parts of a speech given by a preacher and applies a gradual phase shifting until it seems that 8 voices are being heard. As he says in his book, Writings About Music, the importance of the phase shifting process lies in its impersonality. Once the process is set up and loaded, it runs by itself. As you listen to the music in this section, take note of these characteristics. Non-emotional, expressing a state of impersonality. Repeated patterns slowly transforming over extended periods of time. Melodic and harmonic materials based upon triads. A constant rhythmic pulse. And layered textures incorporating phase shifting.